As you might know, Senator Mushahid Hussain Sayyid and I are here as special envoys of the Prime Minister, Mia Mohammed Nawaz Sharif. After the extrajudicial killing of the young freedom fighter Burhan Wani on 8th July, which spurred on this indigenous and spontaneous uprising in Kashmir. The Prime Minister has taken a number of initiatives to ensure that the world knows that Pakistan stands with Kashmir. The Prime Minister's speech in the United Nations was centered around Kashmir, as you know. The Prime Minister has told the international community that Kashmir is an international dispute. India itself invoked the United Nations in 1948, and after that a number of resolutions, a series of resolutions, which says that the Kashmir is disputed territory. And so the Prime Minister called upon the United Nations to ensure the implementation of its own binding resolutions, which call for the Kashmiri people to be given what is their fundamental right, which is an inalienable right, their right to self-determination, which is enshrined in the United Nations Charter itself. A very successful outcome of the Prime Minister's speech, in which he requested that a fact-finding mission should be sent to Kashmir. So the preeminent United Nations Human Rights Council has offered, after the Prime Minister's speech, in response to his request, to send a fact-finding mission to the Indian-occupied Kashmir. So India has unfortunately refused, as it has consistently been refusing to allow the media to come to Indian-occupied Kashmir, or to allow the international community to come and see the atrocities that India has been committing in Kashmir for the past many years, for more than 60 years. The Prime Minister also offered that Pakistan would help with all kinds of medical facilities that were required in Kashmir. And another initiative of the Prime Minister was to send 20 special envoys to the capitals of the world to, as he has put it, shake the collective conscience of the world and to bring to their notice the human rights violations, the state-sponsored gross violations of human rights that are happening in Kashmir. Senator Mushahid and I have spent a very productive week in which we have met media houses, we have met think tanks, we have met policymakers, we have brought to their notice the atrocities being committed in Kashmir. We have presented to the State Department, as well as at the White House, dossiers that we prepared, in which these atrocities are documented. And we went to the State Department and we requested that these violations of human rights should be included in the next report that the State Department presents, and we've been ensured that this will happen. And these violations of human rights by India will be included in the next report. Ladies and gentlemen, the 700,000 troops that are at this moment deployed in Kashmir, which makes it a ratio of 1 to 5, 1 soldier for 5 civilians in the valley of Kashmir. They are using pellet guns. The Americans know it better as buckshot. It's traditionally used for deer hunting, and now animal rights activists have even worked to get these pellet guns banned even for deer hunting, for animal hunting. But Indian troops continue to use these pellet guns on the young people of Kashmir who are asking only for their fundamental right of self-determination. It's a peaceful protest that these people are doing. These young Kashmiri people have no guns, they have no ammunition. They only come out on the streets and they ask the world to be given what has been denied to them for the past many, many years. What was promised to them by the United Nations itself. That is their right to choose their own destiny. But the response that they get from the Indian government is these pellet guns, which spray with one shot, a spray of pellets hits the human body. These pellets are like tiny shrapnel, from 2 to 4 millimeters in size. They have sharp edges, they enter the human bodies, they enter the eyes, and they ricochet in the eye, and they blind the people that they hit. This is not only happening in the streets of Kashmir, but girls, women, and young children who are sitting inside their houses are being targeted. Inside their houses they are being targeted and they are being hit with this shrapnel. In remote areas of Kashmir, girls are being raped, women are being tortured, they are being maimed. More than 700 people have now been partially blinded. More than 200 people have been completely blinded. 20,000 plus people have been injured in incapacitating, debilitating injuries that are going to stay with them for the rest of their lives. And more than 100 people have been killed. Not only that, ladies and gentlemen, in 2010, a network of mass graves was discovered in Kashmir. In more than 1,000 sites, these unmarked, unrecognized graves, and when the bodies were exhumed, and these are well-documented facts, when the bodies were exhumed, it was found that some of the bodies were many, many years old. So this torture, this has been going on, this torture, these killings have been going on for the past many years. And now, the Prime Minister of Pakistan asks, and we as Pakistanis ask that our Kashmiri brothers and sisters be given the right to self-determination. So Senator Mushahid and I had a productive week. We were able to present dossiers, we were able to give our message to the international community and to the United States. We have asked the United States also as a permanent representative in the United Nations Security Council to play its role, and also as a party which has international authority, we ask the United States to play its role and to ensure that India comes to the negotiating table. The Prime Minister has offered peace talks with India, unconditional. There are no preconditions for our talks except that the human rights violations in Kashmir should end. Pakistan is ready to talk on each and every subject that India would like to talk to. So we have asked the United States to please play its role and ensure that India comes to the negotiating table. And this cannot be, these talks are not bilateral, these are tripartite talks. Kashmir is an integral part of these talks. Kashmir and Kashmiri representatives should be present in these talks, because this is not a fight about territory between India and Pakistan. This is about the right of the Kashmiri people to their own self-determination. Another message that we have put across to the international community, that we have conveyed to the United States as well as India, is that Pakistan will not tolerate any intrusion or even the thought of intrusion in its territorial integrity and sovereignty. So all this talk that has been going on about Balochistan or about Gilgit-Baltistan will not be tolerated by Pakistan even for a moment. There are international laws in place, and India cannot talk about territory that is Pakistan's sovereign right. And if India persists in harboring insurgents and terrorists that have bad designs or that have that have already been carrying out covert operations in Pakistan, India must remember that there are fault lines in India itself. There is Khalistan, there are simmering insurgencies within India that can very easily be brought to a boiling point. But we respect India's sovereignty and we ask India to respect our sovereignty. Ladies and gentlemen, as I see this vibrant community of Pakistanis here, the Pakistani diaspora, I am reminded of Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah's vision for Pakistan. When Quaid-e-Azam started his struggle for Pakistan, the first thing that he did was that he asked his sister, Madre-Millat Fatima Jinnah, to come and help him. She was studying to be a dentist, but he asked him to come and help him. That was Quaid-e-Azam's vision for Pakistan. And I assure you that without the emancipation of women, without the equal struggle of women, without the liberty that is the right of women, Pakistan could not have come into being. And that vision continues even now in Pakistan. You know that recently a bill against rape was passed, and honor killings has been passed. I think that's a huge achievement. By the Parliament of Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan, we have to realize that Pakistan has still some entrenched values, patriarchal values, embedded within society. We have witnessed, we have been a victim to terrorist attack, for example, of the young girl Malala Yousafzai, who was asking for the right of girls to education. We had this recent killing of the social media woman Qandil Baloch. And we've been victims of this mindset, this patriarchal mindset. So I think that this is a huge step forward by the Parliament, this passing of the bill against honor killing and against rape, and which will ensure that at least it will be a huge deterrent to people, and it will ensure the empowerment of women in Pakistan. I myself am an example of the role of women in Pakistan. I was in academia before I came into politics. I was studying in Glasgow. I was doing my PhD in English literature, and I had recently completed it. My father, who's been in politics since 1962, when he was the youngest member of the Parliament from what was then the Western Assembly, but unfortunately, his death in 1915, on 15th January, and then I think it was a huge trust that was placed in me by the Prime Minister, and it also shows the progressive vision of the Prime Minister, that he placed this huge trust in me and he gave me the ticket to come and contest elections in my constituency, which is Nankana Sahib. And my opponent was an erstwhile pillar of the establishment, who'd been a very powerful man, the head of IB. And so I came into the field, and I won the election by a whopping 40,000 votes. And my constituency, which is a rural constituency, which is a conservative constituency, I was pleasantly surprised by the welcome that I got there, by the acceptance that I felt there. And I'm glad that I've been able to work in that. It is a unique constituency, Nankana Sahib, in that there is the holiest of the holy shrines of the Sikhs. The birthplace of Guru Nanak Sahib is in Nankana Sahib. And so every year we have Sikh pilgrims who come twice a year for the Baisakhi Mela and then for the birth of Guru Nanak to celebrate that. And so it is an exemplar of unity in diversity that Pakistan, that Quaid-e-Azam has always envisioned for Pakistan. And these Sikhs come. There's also a sizable Christian community in Nankana Sahib. And it becomes an example of coexistence, of harmony, of peace. I think we welcome these Sikhs every year. We have traditionally welcomed them, and they coexist. They are friends with everyone else, with the Muslims in Nankana. And so this is the vision, ladies and gentlemen, that we have and that Quaid-e-Azam had for Pakistan. Pakistan is an extremely important country at this point of time. Geopolitically, it's an important country. We are a nuclear power. Kashmir itself shares its borders with 3 nuclear powers. And so anything that happens in Kashmir will have resonance not only in South Asia, but in the whole world. And so we must ensure that the Kashmiri people are given their rights. And we must ensure that the world knows the power of Pakistan. Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah has said that nothing in the world, no power in the world can undo Pakistan. And Kashmir is the jugular vein of Pakistan. And therefore, we stand by our Kashmiri brothers and sisters. In the end, I would like to thank my respected colleague, Senator Mushahid Hussain Syed Sahab, who has been at the helm of this very important mission and who has steered our ship through this very critical time. And we have managed, in our week of presence here, in our week of meetings, we have managed to create waves in what have become very stagnant waters as regards the issue of Kashmir in Pakistan, in the international community. I would also like to thank the ambassador for hosting us on numerous occasions and for arranging all these meetings for us, the ambassador and his team. I would like to thank the press, who has played an active part in putting across our message. And last but not least, I would like to thank all of you who are here as our informal ambassadors and who can play an extremely important part in influencing opinion at this juncture. So please do that. I would ask you in the end to also play your role, which is an extremely important role. Thank you very much.